Last time out, things were uneasy to say the least, but he got through it. Now it was time for the Monaco Grand Prix, round 6 of the Formula 1 World Championship. So after a really turbulent race in Spain, which he drove through it all to finish in the points once again, it was now time for the Monaco Grand Prix, but Buddy was instantly on the back foot after Spain, as that gearbox failure at the end means that he has to take an engine penalty at probably one of the worst tracks to take an engine penalty on. But there was nothing he could do about it, so he just sat down and put his mind to the job. And with no call up for the Indy 500 like he was expecting, he could fully focus on Monaco this year, unlike last year. During practice, Buddy had the usual Monaco struggles, but got through it. He qualified P9 on the road, but due to other drivers' penalties, he didn't start in 14th as expected. He would start from 12th. It was race day in the Principality. Formula 1 was ready for round 6 of the championship. It was a glorious day in the Principality. 23 degrees, to be honest, it looked quite a lot hotter than that, considering the sky. And it was going to be an interesting one. Obviously, Buddy going into this race on the back foot, it would have been much nicer if his gearbox could have taken just one more race, then he wouldn't have had to take a penalty at all, but instead he's having to take it, probably the worst race to take it, at a track where it is much more tricky to overtake, probably the most difficult on the calendar by quite a long way. But there was nothing that could be done about it, so he had to make do. So looking at the grid for the Monaco Grand Prix, and on pole position, it was Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes ahead of Sebastian Vettel in second. In third on the grid, we have Valtteri Bottas ahead of Daniel Ricciardo in fourth. They are the top 4 on the grid. Kimi Raikkonen lines from 5th ahead of Fernando Alonso in 6th, Sergio Perez in 7th, Romain Grosjean in 8th, Esteban Ocon lines up in 9th ahead of Kevin Magnussen in 10th, Charles Leclerc lines up in 11th with Buddy Simpson in 12th, Van Dorn is in 13th ahead of Gasly, Verstappen, Hartley, Ericsson, Stroll, with Sirotkin and Sainz, who had a grid penalty, rounding out the grid. So, the scene was certainly set for what was set to be an interesting Monaco Grand Prix. So, moving on to the formation lap, as you can see, Buddy Simpson is about to line up on the grid in P12. Like, due to other penalties, he didn't actually lose as much as he could have. P12, considering it's not a bad starting position, considering the fact he had that penalty, but Verstappen and Simpson had to take penalties as well. But we have the lights in Monaco. Lights out, away we go. Buddy gets a reasonable launch, but the McLaren of Van Dorn gets a better launch, and he's got the inside line going into Saint Devote, but Buddy's able to hold his line and make sure that Verstappen doesn't get past. But then Verstappen shoves his way through, heading up towards Massenet, now up towards Casino Square, and Buddy can do nothing. But there is a massive bottleneck going into Mirabeau, and Buddy takes full advantage and is able to pass both Verstappen and Van Dorn before passing Leclerc down the inside into the hairpin. Good move. But it would not last, as Leclerc would dive back down the inside, going into the Nouvelle Chicane. So Buddy was in P12, but he was starting to struggle on tyres as a few laps later, Van Dorn got through. He then found himself at the mercy of Hartley before Verstappen went up behind.
What is going on with these tyres? Honestly, I can't drive. Jesus Christ! And everyone's being so aggressive.
The situation was hopeless.
Jesus Christ, I'm oversteering in the tunnel. I have to box this lap.
Okay, we're boxing the lap.
So, Buddy pitted at the end of that lap, switching to the ultra-soft tyre, aiming for a two-stop strategy. It was a reasonable stop from the Renault mechanics.
Up to speed now. Let's get some heat into those tyres.
But Buddy was really struggling with tyres. Once again, the tyres wore quite quickly, and before long, he was struggling.
Honestly, what is going on with these tyres? And all these other drivers, they're just being so stupidly aggressive.
However, after an initial phase of struggling, the situation seemed to even out a bit, and Buddy, with the help of putting the brake bias to the front, was able to manage the situation. On lap 38, he pitted in for his final stop. However, points were looking increasingly unlikely. He'd spent the whole stint in P16 able to do little about it. However, there was some hope.
Okay, Buddy, there's a massive train of cars from P10 to P15. We can catch them. Also, Gasly has to pit.
I've got good pace, but I'm hearing weird noises off throttle.
Yes, I was going to say, be careful with the engine, it's quite worn. If you manage situations, you should make it to finish quite easily.
Sure enough, Buddy would catch that train and first make light work of Alonso down into the hairpin. Not content with that, he'd then send it up the inside of Perez going into Portier, before making light work of Leclerc at the Rascas. He then passed Magnussen going into the hairpin with a similar pass, before cleverly using the Ferrari, who was a lap ahead, to get past Brendan Hartley.
Good work, Buddy. We're in the point. Don't take any risks to the finish now.
He obliged, and he crossed the line to finish in P10.
That was a hell of a race. Never worked so hard for a point.
Yep, good driving. Sorry we couldn't give the car treat as usual, but you did well.
So it was a P10 finish. Sorry that the last bit was a bit rushed, but the reason for that was actually because Shadowplay decided to stop recording and I didn't realise it, so I had to get that segment from the replay. But as you saw there, it was Lewis Hamilton that won the race, and Romain Grosjean actually finished in second place, and somehow he doesn't actually catch Buddy in the standings. So Buddy, I mean, he loses a position to Verstappen in the standings, but he's still P7, best of the rest. But it was a good race for Buddy in the end, where he managed to snatch a point. But the question was, could he continue that momentum as Formula 1 heads to Montreal?